Testing 1 2 1 2. Testing 3 4. Excellent. Stop. There we go.
Check 1 2. Test 1. Check 1 2.
So far, so good. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, Dr. Fagan. Could you confirm that you can hear us?
Indeed, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, all. We are using AI for our transcriptions now, which is so helpful, and I don't have to spend hours transcribing. So I'm just going to pass around the mic. If you could introduce yourself and what area you're with. Don't worry, I'll make any corrections to misspellings of names.
Candace Walsh with Monastash and Lion Rock.
Veronica Gomez, VP Student Engagement Success.
Ruben Cardenas, Associate Vice President, Student Engagement and Success.
Nicole Martinez with Lion Rocks, visiting writer. Yeah, intern. Sorry.
Mark Gutenberger from the Music Department.
Shannon Martin from Music.
Teresa Larson from Music.
Elliott, KCWU 88.1 The Berg.
Tommy Skaggs, 88-1 The Berg.
Andreina Delgado, 81 The Berg.
Okay. I think that gets us to where we need to be. Chairperson Matheson.
All right. Thank you all for showing up today. We will begin as I call this meeting to order at 3:02 p.m. All righty. First up, we got roll call. Chair Matheson is here in attendance. Vice Chair Simatali is not here currently. Parliamentarian Haley.
Present.
Committee member Alex Cordon.
Yep.
Committee member Baird.
Present.
And the committee members Abby Tochuko and Eros Spangenberg are not currently present. So we do meet quorum as we move on to approval of the agenda. It should have been sent over and is also on screen.
I would like to just let you know all that I did have one more communications received this afternoon. Just want to make sure it's aware it'll become more relevant when we discuss our voting of the supplemental requests. But Lola from Slice reached out and wrote you all a nice email right here so y'all can see it. Basically asking or telling and informing us that they were able to identify some foundational funds to help cover the leadership conference, which resulted in some goods and services that they would like to move from the Slice budget to the club travel budget, which means as you all are considering the supplemental request, which was initially for $24,000, she is letting us know that they are taking a reduction of $8,500 off of the original request because they were able to find some supplemental funds. So we'll bring that back around here at the end. And then you also did receive a response from the Observer. One of the questions that you all asked last week was if they increase their printing from 5 to 8 in spring, do they have any data to show the value of increasing the printing? And the responses there linkable for you all to see. But basically the answer was we don't have enough data to show you that yet. It's only been a quarter. So.
Are there any motions to approve the agenda?
Yep, I motion to approve the agenda. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Alrighty. Moving on, we have our approval of the minutes. This should also be in the email.
Yep, I motion to approve the meeting minutes. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. All right, moving on. There are currently no reports from the chair. Move on to reports from the advisors.
Two things from the advisors. First, just a reminder to our base funded areas that are presenting today. You all have 10 minutes to present and 10 minutes for Q&A from the committee. If additional time is needed, the committee will indicate that and vote on an extension of the time. And then lastly, I just received word that the president approved our updated S&A fee guidelines. So it's official. Again, that will come more in play next week when we do deliberations, but basically the additional change was a few title changes. We used to say Dean of Student Success. We now have the VP, the change in student government's name, the change in my name. And then the biggest one is that we are going to provide what we're calling a cooling off period. So from the time you all make your recommendations of budgeting, we will send it out to everybody and they will have 1 week to respond with, I think you guys misinterpreted my ask. We want to change our ask. We don't think you have the right information. And then we will bring that back together the week of the 13th. You all decide whether the recommendation is changing or not, and if it is or isn't, we will make the adjustments, and our final recommendation will move forward to UPAC, Joel, Vero, those types of things. So we'll go over that more during deliberations next week, but just so you all know, that was the major change within the policy.
Alrighty, and there is no updates from ASUU. We move on to communications received. As Robbie already shared, we received a response from the Observer regarding the follow-up request we made of more data. In summary, it's just been too little time for them to gather that data. It's only been a quarter, so that is the follow-up there. And also the reduction in the supplemental request of the $24,000 from Slice of around, what was it, 8,500. With that, I open the first call to public comment. Alrighty, and before we get into new business, I would like to propose a motion to extend the meeting by an hour.
I second that motion. Oh, you propose. I motion to extend the meeting by an hour. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Alrighty, moving on to our first bit of new business, our base funding requests, and beginning there is PEP Band.
So Dr. Fagan is joining us virtually today for his presentation.
Can you all hear me? Excellent. Thanks so much. Thanks for being here. Let me attempt to share my screen. And is that available to you all right now? Excellent. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Tiandre Fagan. I currently serve as Associate Professor of Music and Director of Bands here at Central Washington University. And I'm here on behalf of the CWU PEP Band, making our request. This presentation will be very similar to the request made almost exactly 1 year ago today, with just a couple of updates and ideas for you to consider. I'll go to my next slide if it will let me to do so. Again, my name is Dr. Tiandre Fagan. I serve as Director of Bands, and I oversee the band program. The person who is responsible for the day-to-day operations and the teaching of the ensemble under consideration today is Professor Kyle Edwards, who is a lecturer of music in band and bassoon here in the Department of Music, and he is the day-to-day operator of this organization. Who we are, a little about who we are for those who are new or do not know. We are an extracurricular activity and organization housed within the Department of Music. The ensemble is a high energy spirit leader and musical ambassador, strengthening CWU pride and enhancing the university experience for students and the greater community. It is currently under our new design, a 32-member student organization that demonstrates musical excellence, leadership, and professionalism in the public setting. We are performers at major university events, specifically deeply tied and connected to the athletic program and the university community, collaborating, fostering town-to-gown relationships. And that's just a fancy way to say that the work that we do is not exclusively connected to our athletic events, but deeply connected to our university events and serving the greater Ellensburg community as a whole. We are an inclusive space for all students of all backgrounds, providing leadership and mentorship and artistic growth regardless of major. And before I move off of this slide, I want to further recognize the extracurricular connection to this organization. This organization is not a class, does not meet as a regular academic class, but meets in addition. And of course, as I just recognized and mentioned, open and including more than just music majors, but both music majors and non who participate and benefit from. What we're asking for this year, looking at $14,282 for the upcoming fiscal academic year, $57,128 over the next quadrennium. And I'd like to purposely say this again because we had what was an 18% decrease last year before budgets were tightened again for us. But this is a 23% decrease from our previous ask. And what's happening with that decrease, because the majority of the spending budget for this is dealing with student employment, and the less we have to spend, the smaller the ensemble continues to become. And we've seen a dramatic reduction of that, say, over the past 6 years or so. As the budget continues to tighten, so does the size of the membership We certainly appreciate the opportunity to be funded by S&A, but we continue to have to renegotiate what the ensemble looks like, and how often it can perform and present itself as it represents the university and the Department of Music. I really, again, want to highlight the decrease again from that ask. We are doing a lot with little, and certainly understand the constraints there. The breakdown of what that $14,282 looks like, of course, $12,400 in student payroll for a ensemble of up to 32 performers that are selected by an audition that takes place in the fall. We do a university call for students who are interested in being a member of that organization, and through an audition process selected by the director of athletic bands and in consultation with me. We build an ensemble that has the musical components needed for performance. That roughly scales to about $372 of student payroll benefits and goods and services currently in the amount of $1,500, which is also a reduction for us as the whole budget has been decreased. What we're looking at in terms of that student employment are the pep band musicians and or personnel, to include these three items here on top. If you are a non-musician, looking at three sectors of performance: woodwind performing members, brass performing members, and rhythm section performing members, with the support of a graduate student within the Department of Music who serves in the band area, that provides support both for this organization as a whole from an organizational standpoint and a musical leadership standpoint under the leadership and direction of our director of athletic bands. How are we using those funds in terms of the goods and services for the pep band? Several things that are key to understand and connect with here. To music and licensing are for public performance, of course. Anything that is self-arranged by either our students who are skilled to do that, or the director of the ensemble that's skilled to do that. Licensing has to be purchased and obtained in order for those pieces of music to be performed publicly. Sometimes we have the ability to buy music that we can bypass this opportunity to have additional funds to license things, and that's always good. And when possible, we always work in that nature. The other goods and services are the music portfolio and lyre replacements. There's a lot of wear and tear over the years, and although we take care of equipment, it's often nice to be able to replace items that are failing and deteriorating for the ensemble. And unlike the marching band that purchases a uniform and stores that traditionally to use over a span of 8 to 10 years, this is something that we purchase every year in terms of the pep band apparel and or uniform. Certainly allows us to have a unified look as we are in public facing venues, as well as to change what that looks like year to year in consultation with our friends in athletics, so that we are making complementary figures there, and a general good presentation for what we look like at other public university facing events. The pep band organizational chart, as I led with, serves as me at the top of that chart as director of bands, although I do not deal with the day-to-day operations. I certainly oversee the ensemble, led again by Professor Kyle Edwards, who serves as the director of the pep band and the director of the marching band. Followed by, in terms of that association connection, Tyler White, who serves as one of my graduate students, currently finishing up his first year as a master's student in instrumental wind conducting, and a student assistant for woodwind and brass. These are non-additional paid positions, but just the structure of our organization and how we communicate and flow with one another. And then lastly here, if you're interested in learning more about us, seeing more of us, I encourage you to visit the CWU Department of Music website where you can learn a little about the organization, what it stands for, what it does, similar to the conversation we have here. And you can also find us on social media, both on Facebook at Central Washington University Bands, as well as Instagram, CW Band No S. I will now turn it over to any questions that any of you may have.
Yeah, I had a. So, how long does the like purchasing and licensing rights last for like when you guys purchase music and stuff like that?
Excellent question. When we purchase, and I'll stop sharing for now. When we have the opportunity to purchase music that becomes that licensing comes to Central Washington University, so we don't have to redo that. So if the pep band has a specific license to play a piece of music or a special arrangement, we are able to use that as long as it's not outside of Central Washington University. So 8 years from now, we can still play that piece. We couldn't play that music if, for example, someone took that to a different school. We would have to have an additional licensing.
Thank you.
How separate is this from the various academic areas involving pep band and music in general here at Central Washington?
I would say separate academically completely, because when you say how separate, that to me indicates, is this any way tied to some sort of academic class? And the answer to that is no. Unlike the marching band, who has deep ties into the curriculum itself on the music education side, this does not, and nor has it. So it does not, as I mentioned before, meet as an academic class. It is just another extension of the music offerings that we have non-academically, if you will, for performance sake.
Thank you very much. A few more. Back in 2025, there was the request of around 18,000 with 4,000 transferred out. This 23% decrease is what has kind of led to the 14,000 number that I see here.
That is correct.
Can you describe, or can you go a little bit more into what that transfer out was exactly, and why you're requesting this number?
Why we are requesting less instead of the 18,000?
Yes.
We would love to we would love to have that increase, because what that increase does for us is allows us to support more students being involved. Thinking about the recent budget constraints, I wanted to reduce that amount for one of two reasons. We are now following an NCAA model in terms of what the size of basketball bands, if you will, look like traditionally on the NCAA, as an NCAA requirement for tournament bands, of course, and some maybe a little bit of background information there. My career before Central certainly involved the work in athletic bands and dealing with a lot of post tournament play. And those bands have strict guidelines in terms of personnel. And in my previous institutions, the mode of operation was to design the ensemble so we wouldn't be able to, for example, have an ensemble of 80 students in the regular season, and in the postseason have to reduce the ensemble down to 32. It seemed a little bit of a better merit base for the size of the NCAA tournament bands to return the band to that size. And that was one of the major considerations in why the reduction and the ask that we have now. And it kind of just meets the standards of what NCAA currently requires and mandates.
Awesome. All right. Thank you very much for your time. You have one more question? Oh, all right.
Hi, Dr. Fagan. I have one more question.
Sure.
In the past, the budget was typically used for travel, and now it's switching to student employment.
That should not be correct. The pep band the funds have never been allocated and or used for travel. Not under my leadership.
Sorry, the way that they do it in
So it comes in as a stipend, not as like student wages? Okay.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you very much for your time.
Oh, thank you. I'm seeing some fake applause there, or maybe real applause, and I appreciate that. Before leaving, I just have to say this, and I know it goes without say, but on behalf of those hardworking students, the student body is enhanced. Our university community is enhanced by the very nature of what these students pour into what they do, in the very same way that our student athletes provide an additional experience, both for our students and the university community. So thank you very much for your consideration in this most important ask.
Alrighty, moving on to our next base funding request, we have the music department.
Well, you can have somebody click through if you'd like, or Shannon can press the button. Yep, either one, whatever you're most comfortable with. Voice. Oh, come on, you know what a mic is.
Hey there. My name is Mark Gutenberger. I'm chair of the music department. This is my 4th year as chair and the first time I've ever done this. A little bit nervous, but I want you to know I do have a safe word. So if you hear banana shake, things are going south, all right? That's what's happening. Thank you for this opportunity to speak today. We are requesting money for student travel for our music students. I'm here to advocate for continued and strengthened support for student travel within the CWU music department. Student travel is not an auxiliary activity. It is a high-impact practice that directly supports the university's vision, mission, recruitment goals, and commitment to student success. The CWU Music Department actually actively supports the university's mission by providing visible, meaningful engagement beyond the classroom. Public performances, regional tours, and conference participation increase institutional visibility and attract prospective students. Music ensembles serve as a cultural ambassadors, creating learning environments rooted in creativity, diversity, and artistic excellence. Equally important, these experiences increase retention. Students who participate in high-impact practices feel connected, valued, and invested in their education. Travel deepens that engagement by fostering a sense of belonging and shared accomplishment, strengthening Wildcat pride among students, alumni, and the broader community. For music education and music performance majors, travel transforms learning from theoretical to experience. Conferences, festivals, and professional gatherings immerse students in the field they are preparing to enter. They observe current best practices, emerging pedagogical trends, and professional performance standards. This type of experiential learning is widely recognized as one of the most effective educational models for long-term student success. It strengthens both knowledge and confidence. Participation in events such as those hosted by the National Association of Music Education connects our students with leaders in the field. They gain exposure to innovative curriculum strategies, advocacy tools, and contemporary classroom methodologies. These events also serve as hiring pipelines. Many many districts recruit at conferences. Without travel funding, our students risk losing access to these critical professional entry points. Performance careers are inherently travel-based. Auditions, festivals, and competitions rarely occur locally. These events provide professional level critique and exposure. Students perform in unfamiliar venues, adapt to diverse acoustics, and develop resilience. For many students, these travel opportunities lead directly to graduate assistantships, performance contracts, and long-term collaborations. Experiencing music within its cultural and historical setting deepens understanding in ways textbooks cannot. Studying jazz in the birthplace of New Orleans or exploring operatic traditions in Italy provides contextual learning that enriches both performances and pedagogy. Students begin to understand not just how music functions, but also how it works socially and historically. This strengthens their artistry and their effectiveness as future educators. Travel-based performance and conference participations require coordination, responsibility, and adaptability. Students must collaborate under pressure, represent the institution professionally, and manage logistical challenges. These experiences cultivate soft skills that employers consistently identify as essential, and the value extends far beyond music. We must recognize the financial reality facing our students. Inflation has significantly increased travel costs, registration fees, airline housing, and instrument transport have all risen. Without institutional support, travel becomes accessible primarily to those with personal means. This creates inequity and limits opportunity for talented students who may already be balancing tuition and living expenses. Continued funding ensures that access to professional development is based on merit and preparation, not personal financial capacity. So here we have a chart of showing how our funding has gone down from 2016 at over 140,000 to where it currently is under 20,000. Underneath it breaks it down and shows exactly the amounts for each one of those things. I can come back to that if we need to. When our ensembles perform regionally or nationally, they represent CWU. Awards and public recognition elevate the university's reputation. Prospective students see a vibrant, active program. Graduates who secure employment and advancement degrees reflect positively on the institution. Over time, those alumni often return as donors, collaborators, and advocates. Travel funding generates measurable long-term return. Some additional benefits of allotting a lump sum for base funding instead of many requests: it reduces the number of requests seen throughout the year from music students for supplemental funding. That's a big one. It reduces duplicated transactions from transferring funds to the music department as reimbursements, and it allows our department to support trips that have smaller groups and shortened timelines to register and commit to travel. In closing, student travel within CWU Music Department is not an optional enhancement. It is foundational to professional training. In a challenging economic climate, continued support is even more essential to maintain equity, competitiveness, and institution visibility. Funding student travel is an investment in student success, in recruitment and retention, and in the long-term reputation of Central Washington University. Thank you for your time and consideration. I also wanted to add one more fact in that we have increased our class fees and our student fees for the groups they involve. And it's, what's that figure? That it.
In 10 years, we've tripled it. We went from around 119,000 to 2025, 318,000. We do not want to make the students pay more person.
It creates much more of a burden on them. Questions?
Oh, no, I was just going to open up the floor for questions.
Has the music department previously gotten S&A funding?
Yes. I'm sorry. With the last quadrennium cycle, we were dropped off of that. We were getting 63,000 each year, and that had been happening for over 10 years. Teresa, did you have something to add to? So we're feeling that loss very, very much, along with everybody else too.
I just wanted to provide a point of clarification, Austin. I don't know why would you mind turning yours off for me?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. So the music department is asking for funding. They were previously funded under the marching band. So that is the difference. So technically this is a new request for this year from the music department and not the marching band specifically.
No, so just to clarify further, we used to get 3 separate funding sources from S&A, one for marching band, one for pep band, and one that was strictly student travel, and that was $63,000. Yeah. Sorry.
For example, like how many students would go, so how do you all select travel, where to go to, and like, you know, limiting costs associated with that, and how many students come on the trip as well?
So there are a ton of variables that play into this. So our large ensembles have course fees. A lot of the funding that we've also lost in our goods and services and operating expenses. So we are literally on a shoestring begging for money, so to say. And that's covering the increased costs for student employment. Travel's kind of been one of the things that we just have to give up. Could you restate your question?
So, yeah, the first question, okay, so how do you all select like the amount of students that go on a travel, and how do you determine like the minimal cost within that travel as well?
Luckily within the university, our college or the music department, we have a lot of avenues for self-support. We run festivals, camps, concerts that we charge for tickets. We also do free concerts for the student and surrounding community. When we were deciding on who would go, it would depend on who was invited. Our previous chair would look at how much money certain ensembles had available to them, and he would try and split it out equitably based on the group size and visibility and importance of the event that they would be going to. The other thing is our large ensembles. We just did a trip to South Korea last 2 years ago, and it was over 83 students that traveled. So that was all it was like $200 and some odd thousand to get them all there. They went out and they garnered donations, community support, alumni support, Give Central, those kinds of events. So our students and our faculty have worked so hard to bridge the gap that we're facing right now. But this travel piece would make such a difference on our student community.
Teresa has a comment.
Did that answer your question? Or was there another piece to it?
Yes, like I just wanted to know, like, for example, when it comes to selecting a location, like why South Korea, for example? Yeah.
They were invited. Tiandre and his group, and actually all of our professors are really talented and have contacts internationally. And they've seen us perform our different ensembles and invite us. We've been to Carnegie Hall, South Korea, Italy, Spain, and then all over the United States as well.
For instance, last beginning of January, our jazz band was invited to New Orleans to play at the, what was that? The Jazz Education there. So it is something that the faculty can apply for. And then they are selected from everybody who's applying from all over the country. So they were selected as one of the top groups to go to that. It's a national convention, and it doesn't happen every year, but when those things come up, it's nice to be able to find funding for them.
Hi, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for coming here. I was in band for 7 years, so I appreciate the things that you guys do. So you mentioned that you have kind of like some self-support programs or like events happening as well as donations. Do you have any plans lined up just in case you say, let's say I get like half of the funding you're requesting? If that were to be the case, would you have other plans in order to receive funding for travel?
Yeah, our groups have been the last couple of years applying for Give Central for donations. We've had some really creative ideas. I think, what was the Assassin game? I wasn't part of it. Different things that they have done within the localized community of the music building and outside support. Boy, Mark pointed out to Teresa and I, right, because we're doing the books, we're behind the scenes. Musicians are buskers, is that the correct? They're out constantly trying to drum up support, money, a living, right? So that's part of the process.
Also, a lot of them, some of them are clubs as well, and so they'll go to Club Central and request money. There's also been some money from the CA dean who they can request among a lot of other people who are competing for that money as well. Teresa?
Yeah, and also our ensembles do clinics where they'll go out to other schools, high schools, and drum up support by educating, performing, and recruiting.
The percussion club, for instance, sells macaroni and cheese and cinnamon rolls on Tuesdays. So they just try to get money from other students to and raise a little bit that way to help so they can go to their annual Northwest Percussion Festival.
Right, we only have time for a few more questions. So, Erin, do you still have a question?
I do. How are you paying for the students to travel currently for the last 4 or 5 years?
Give Central has been helpful. Students have had to pay out of pocket and just heavy fundraising. We've implemented a faculty showcase where our new and existing professors do a concert, free concert, and we have a QR code, ask for donations either for a specific purpose, for specific ensemble, or specific trip.
All right. I have, I'll limit it to one more question. You talked about how a lot of this was being supplemented by raising class fees, and it was going back onto the students. How and are these travel costs in any way directly connected with the academics or classes for the students itself, or is this a completely secondary outside the classroom activity or fund?
Do you know that I do the money part, so I don't know what the criteria is for the students that go. I don't think the trips are graded trips. They're just opportunities. Graded concerts would be something that are ticketed in most of our ensembles, with the exception of wind. Yeah, it's not grade dependent, course credit dependent, I
Yes,
guess.
if the issue would come if it was a credit dependent travel.
Yeah.
So okay. And
This is not.
Alrighty. One last question. How did you come up with this number other than the historical precedent of the 63,000?
We went back and forth. We decided to go with what we'd had before, knowing that it probably would get reduced, just understanding that the times that we're in. But that was what ultimately made our decision.
Just a quick question. You mentioned you seek funding from club travel, of course, being the clubs. Do you have any idea how much funding the music clubs are receiving for travel from that area?
I was able to pull reports. It would take me a bit to go through that. It's something I can send to you guys that would show that breakdown.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, if you could
Should
send
I just send it, email it to you, Robbie? Okay.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Going on to our next base funding request, we have KCWU.
Perfect. Perfect. Check. All right. 88 won the Berg here. This is probably my favorite place on campus, and I have a lot of information that I've packed into the following 10 minutes, so I'm sure I'm going to go through a lot of slides pretty quick, but we'll have some time at the end to go back to any slides. So to kick it off, who are we? KCWU is CWU's FCC licensed, student-run, professionally managed, award-winning radio station. Students refine their speaking and presentation skills while performing tasks as music DJs, newscasters, sportscasters, talk show hosts, and a variety of creative and technical roles. We have 4 studios. We have 2 radio stations, an online-only station and an FM station, and we provide live event and music support. KCWU has been part of the CW landscape for a long time. I've been going through archives to find exactly when, but radio at Central dates back to at least the 1950s. So radio at Central is really embedded into the culture of Central. Who can participate? Any student, any major. We're not tied to any academic program, so anybody with any background, any prior experience, students can come in and go through our peer-led training program and have a show on the radio station. So any student, any major, we have capacity for a lot of people. Let's start off, we'll talk about our staff, and then we'll move on to our volunteers. So for our staff involvement, we have 3 professional staff members at the station. We have me, Tommy Skaggs, we have Elliot, our chief engineer, and we have Andreina Delgado, who's in charge of our events and outreach. We have 8 student staff members right now. This is significantly down from previous years, but we have defined roles for each of the students. We have implemented something called on-call DJs because when we provide event support, it usually is from our student staff members, but we've started these on-call positions to deploy students to provide the same level of coverage to the campus. All students are making minimum wage. In office, we have 7 to 8 students at any given time, and on average, they work about 15 hours a week. And then those students will also work additional hours when they're sent out for events. But then with event coverage, we have 2 students per event, and on average, they work about 3.5 hours per event. We also have students that will help us out with summer coverage, so our staffing changes over the summer, but we still need to be an operating radio station. One of the things that we run into with the on-call DJ positions is we've hired these people to help us out at events, but a lot of those students have also had to find jobs outside of the station to support, and they haven't been available during the times we needed them. So that's a model that we may have to evaluate. And we're really going to we're going to try to avoid cutting any additional student positions. And once again, if we go back to like even 2021, we had 20 paid students that were at 20 hours a week. So it's significantly down from in the past. For our volunteer involvement, so all of our show hosts are volunteers, and this is literally our schedule from this week. These stats were pulled from when I did this report on Monday. So as a Monday snapshot, we had 72 active volunteer show hosts, and that equates to 54 different shows each week. This academic year, we have 43 students that went through our full training process to become DJs on the radio, and we have an additional 7 students that are on hold that are either studying away, taking a break, but we have 7 more people that have gone through training that are going to be coming back. These numbers change all the time. Like we even have, like from this screenshot, we have at least one additional show on Fridays at 11 that's going to be starting next week. So we have this schedule all the time. It's changing. When a student graduates, when they turn into alumni, they're no longer allowed to be part of the station. And so we're always training as the schedule is always shifting quarter to quarter. We're seeing an upward trend in volunteers. This schedule is packed compared to previous years. We have a ton of people, and a lot of the show hosts, we have 2 or 3 people on a lot of the shows taking up the time. And then these volunteers rely on the pro staff and student staff for support and promotion. We also allow departments, clubs, and organizations to have their own radio shows. So right now we have shows hosted by ASCWU Career Center, Mariachi, Mecha, the Mock Trial Club, Case Management, Office of Sustainability, and most recently SHRM. So those are all organizations that currently have shows. So if any clubs or orgs want to have a radio show to talk about the things they're doing within their club, like right now, the Office of Sustainability is doing their show right now in our station. And in the past, we've worked with the MCC, Equity Services Council, the Office of International Student Programs. SLICE will be coming back. They're going to start training here very shortly. And we've also had a student media podcast. So everybody's welcome. Who we serve CW students, the CW community, and the Ellensburg community. And how do we do that? One of the biggest ways is we provide event support. And so you'll see us at a lot of events. We are able to customize music playlists, deliver a different type of vibe for the event. We work with the event organizers, and Dorena works really closely with organizations both on and off campus. The biggest thing is this generates revenue for us as well. There's 2 main ways we generate revenue, and this is one of the main ones. In fiscal year 24, we did over 120 events. Last fiscal year, we had over 10, and so far we've done over 70 this year. Another way that we coordinate with both on and off campus departments is something called public service announcements. This is a free service, and anybody is welcome to put in an announcement request on our website, and we'll promote either your club, a campaign you're doing, an event, anything that you want to get the word out about. We do it for free, and that's the URL to do that. Back in fiscal year 24, we had 55 announcements created throughout the year. We had 98 last year, and then so far this year we've done 51 different individual campaigns. And we also have every single day, Monday through Friday, we have a student staff member from HYPE will come down, and they'll create the HYPE Minute, which is a daily record of everything that's happening on campus that day, and that happens every day, Monday through Friday. We also engage through our social media. We will repost on our social media stories. We like to amplify things that are happening inside the station and on and off campus. We'll promote our shows and live events. And then when we're at events, we also do live posting. And we also do a lot of really cool giveaways. One example, we have the 12 Days of Bergmas, and the Catharsis Tattoo had a $300 gift card. So all of our giveaways are given to us by the community members. So it's a really good way to connect students with the community as well. And this is just a snapshot that I pulled on the 20th of this month. In the last 90-day period, we had over 98,000 views. That equates to about 1,100 views a day on our social media, eyes on our content. This is a list of the partners that we have, and I've seen other departments put this up, and I've seen 88 won the Berg on a lot of those slides as well. For our on-campus partners, we work with a lot of people on campus. This could be through event support. This is for those on-campus announcements or those on-air announcements I was talking about. In the community, we also work with private event clients as well. These are we've been at Fred Meyer. So a lot of people will work with us to either get the word out or they're helping us out with events. And then the other way that we're bringing in money is something through underwriters. These are sponsors that we have contracts with that will have at least 50 on-air announcements per week. And that's our second, these are all of the people that we have currently on the air that are giving us money each year. We also like to keep things legal. These are services that we pay for. We pay for a portion of the performance rights organizations on campus, and so we have to know that we have the permission. One more minute. Okay, we have to legally acquire the music, and we have to have the rights to be able to play it, and we also have to stay legal with the FCC. We have a lot of cool stuff happening with the Tation technology. One more minute. Yes.
Hold on.
Yep. Sorry.
I would like to propose a motion to extend the time.
I'm so sorry. I thought I was getting into it.
I'd like to motion to extend the time by 3 minutes.
Second. Any discussion?
Thank you so much.
All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. You're good to go.
I really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you so much. And I was getting caught up. Station technology, we're a state-of-the-art facility. We like to stay ahead of the current standards, and this helps out with the job placement. But we also need to be proactive in our replacement cycles. We have a lot of gear at the station. There's a lot of different ways to tune into the station. There's several ways on our website, as well as we're an iHeart station as well, so anybody who subscribes to iHeart, you can tune into us through there. We have our own app that can be downloaded to listen to it on your phone. Any smart speaker, you can say play 88 won the Berg, and we will start playing through your smart speaker. One of the cool things is we also are part of Radio Garden this year, so this is where you can listen to radio all over the world, and we're putting Ellensburg on the map with our station, as well as we started doing RDS in cars, so if you have a modern radio in your car, you can listen to us through there. We've been incorporating video, so these are some recent pictures of things that we've incorporated video, including the fireside chat with the presidents. We've had in-studio bands. We've been providing video for the men's lacrosse team. We've had international students working in, doing a DJ lab, and we also have D&D that happens on the air every Saturday. So a lot of cool ways that video is incorporated. We also listen to the public by having a yearly listener survey. These were our 3 campaigns that we've done in the past 3 years. We do this every spring, and we make adjustments based on the feedback that we get from those. Our listener stats, people are listening longer. From last year to this year, we're listening about 13 minutes per average session. They're up to 53, so we're about doubling our listening from January to this year. We're also heard around town. So there's a lot of places that are playing us in town. 2 minutes. All right, and then let's go to the next slide. We win a ton of awards. Even this last weekend in New York City, we won the Promotional Poster Award. And we were the college university station of the nation award in New York in both 2015 and 2022. Our staff move on and they do things in the real world. They're doing it, the things that they're doing here at the station, they go on and they do it professionally as well. There's the ways that we've been saving money. We've been reviewing all software and hardware and implementing in-house or lower cost solution. We've been utilizing surplus. We've been limiting our conference attendance. We've adapted to a reactive approach to replacement cycles rather than proactive. We've been working with the state work study program. We have reduced student staff and work hours and implemented on-call event positions. And finally, this is our ask. We're asking for $451,153, and we will have $20,000 of self-support. Thank you very much for extending my time. I really appreciate it, and thank you so much.
I open the floor for any questions.
Okay, so I kind of have two, but
yeah.
So I think Yakima's a big hub for business. So have y'all thought about expanding? Because Yakima Federal, so
Yeah.
Yakima
So
businesses?
if we rewind a little bit, we were actually getting really plugged into Yakima because we were trying to engage the satellite campuses.
Mhm.
So we had a podcast studio stationed at YVC.
Oh, awesome.
So we were working directly with the staff in Yakima, so we have still a good relationship with the folks that work down there, but due to lack of student interest in that space, we've removed it. But yeah, we definitely would love to engage more with the students in Yakima. We're also thinking about satellite campuses. We would love to have other sites to have a podcast studio to engage our satellite campuses.
I like to think there's those commuter buses as well. Have y'all worked with the commuter buses? I think that'd be a great way to increase funds.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And then another question is, approving this as it stands right now, does this mean that this is just a one-time, you come and present and then there's no more funds or presentations after?
Yeah. So the way that we got to our numbers is I worked with Circ Accounting, and we start because some of our supplemental funding requests that we've had last year, that incorporates that. So one of the pieces that when we came in, we asked for summer hours for funding. That when we calculated the student work hours, that included that amount as well. And we also had a supplemental request earlier this year to cover some basic batteries, and so that would be, we have some funding in there to accommodate at least some more purchases like that rather than having to come to S&A. I talked earlier about having instead of having a proactive, we've turned to a reactive approach. That's not something where we want to be. Even an example would be last night at the last night's basketball game, we had an old unit from 2014 fail, and right in the middle of the game. So at halftime, we had to turn off the FM broadcast, and it was a big game during Western. That could have been something if we had more funding. That could have been something that was replaced. And now we're in what do we do now to get through tomorrow's doubleheader? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Alrighty, I got a few questions.
Yeah, please.
So, looking at the breakdown here, and in comparison to the previous years as well,
yep,
it does seem like there has been some active efforts into trying to incorporate as much as you can in this, while also trying to seemingly lessen the load on the S&A. However, if this were to be cut even further, is this the lowest possible amount you can function, or is this what you want or need?
I think going back to the previous question, if this amount got lowered, we may have to come back and ask for supplemental, in that reactive approach. So if we're funded as it's written, you probably won't see us coming in asking for funding unless something critical breaks down. The funding we're asking for would give us the staffing that we need to operate, and it would also give us a cushion to be able to make a few purchases throughout if needed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And other than that, I am seeing the breakdown of goods and services in particular, going up to around the 50,000 mark. What exactly would that go and be used for?
Yeah, so all of our costs are increasing. Every single cost. Can you go back to the slide that it just has the yeah, this slide right here, like every single one of these between ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, GMR, Sound Exchange, Pool, Soundtrack, BPM Suprema, I Like Music, they have all had increases. So like we have a lot of things that are fixed costs. And then all of our fixed costs are going up. Like pretty significantly, like Sound Exchange every single year, because we have 2 stations we operate, every year it's going to be $50 more per year. So every year, because we have 2 stations, $100 more every single year. We have done a lot by cutting a lot of our expenses. Like when we went through the S&A process last year, we went through and cut so many things. We halved our cell phone budgets. We've halved the phones, the landlines. So we keep cutting. If we take our the total fees, that'll give us about I think we'll have about $17,000 of additional goods and services funding that we would just need to be able to pay for things that are outside of our expected things that are contracted, things that we need to pay for.
Hi, sorry about that.
Yeah.
I think I might have misheard earlier in the presentation.
Yeah, sure.
Did you say you were trying to avoid any additional hiring right now, or is that additional firing?
Can you go back to our org chart? Yeah. So this is our org chart as is. This is if we are funded as asked, we wouldn't have to make any additional cuts or hours or any, in the past, we've had a tech person. That position was eliminated. We had 4 people that were part of a brand team. Our news team used to be 3 or 4 people. Our training department used to always be 2 people, and we would sometimes have 2 production coordinators. So all the green ones, those are our paid student staff, and then we have the three students that are just our on-call DJs, just to continue doing our event support. So yeah, if we're funded, we're going to be able to at least keep this. And one of the other pieces, especially if we look at our funding from this year, we have a lot of our students that are using the state work study program, which has been saving a lot of money. And so it's the state work study program is awesome, both for the student and it's also good for budgets as well. But that's also something that we can't really depend on year to year. Even quarter to quarter, student financial aid packages change. So one of the things that we've explored was maybe do we allocate just ones that are work study only positions? It's because we might be able to hire 2 people in that position, if we know that. So especially the fiscal year we're in right now, we're having a little bit of, I wouldn't necessarily consider it salary savings, but at least some state work study savings that we're seeing.
Okay, perfect. And then my follow-up question is, if you were to have your amount of student staff increase for the next few years, does this ask include their payment? I'm sorry.
The ask that we have right now is based off of this org chart right here. I would love to from the conferences that we've been to when we talk to the Society of Broadcast Engineers, the SBE, they're all about radio engineers, and those students that position doesn't exist right now, and that's it. If we're going to get one student back, I'd love to have somebody working in our engineering department. So right now, the way that it's written, it doesn't necessarily have that. But if we get into the year and we have students that have several students that have work study, we may be able to implement something like that. I would love to do that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all very much for your time.
Cool, thank you. All right. Oh. All right. My name is Tommy Skaggs.
Yep. Moving on to our next base funding request, WSRN.
This one's a little shorter, I promise. So this is WSRN, the Wildcat Sports Radio Network. So let's get into it. So the WSRN provides sports coverage, and right now we're providing coverage for football, play-by-play, pre and half, and we also do men's basketball and women's basketball. We do all home games for those, and we also do a show that highlights central sports called The Rundown. And in the past, we've done baseball, softball, rugby, club sports, and like we could do a lot more club sports if we wanted to. So for staff and resources, this fund only pays for 2 to 3 student staff members. And we also have rotating student volunteers. So right now when we have basketball games going on, we have our 2 students there working, and then we'll be rotating in volunteers to third seat, or even tomorrow one of them will be doing play-by-play. We're dependent on KCWU for equipment and broadcast logistics, and this allows dedicated staff to provide sports coverage. We coordinate directly with the CWU Athletics Department. Even today I was talking with them, coordinating plans for tomorrow. We have really good communication and collaboration with them. And in the past years, they've given our student staff improved visibility and opportunities. And one of the key components of this is they've given us access to press row during the basketball game. So they're right courtside, and they've allowed us to be in the press box during football games, which is awesome. They've also, this partnership has also allowed us to give referrals for PA. So some of the students that are calling, being the PA announcers during games, are actually 88-1 volunteers that ended up getting paid jobs up in athletics. So it was a cool pipeline that has happened this year. Our audio is on their video streams, and they also include us in social media and highlight reels. And so some recent highlights. This first one is awesome. Our student broadcasters provided the play-by-play coverage on ESPN for the NCAA playoff game, which is awesome. We also were able to provide the play-by-play coverage of the Lone Star Championship game, which we won. We were the Lone Star champions, so it was really cool to make those calls. Our highlights have been on CBS Sports and social media, the CBS Sports social media. We were invited to Western to call an away game at courtside, and they were really nice to us there. Our student broadcasters were also mentioned in the D2 football show, and our broadcasters were also nominated for some IBS awards. We actually see KCWU sees a listener bump during broadcast. So this was during the last football game. You could actually see when the game ended, and then we're turning it off. So like people are really interested in listening to sports. And you can see during the doubleheader that happened on June 24th between the women's game and the men's game, you could see when the women's game ended, there was a drop off, and then later you see when the men's game was over. So people are clearly tuning in to listen to sports broadcasts. Some of the benefits is this gives free access to CWU sports coverage. All the athletics streams now are behind paywalls. And so if people tune into us, they could listen to that coverage for free. This highlights student athletic achievements for the students that are involved. It's professional development. It gives them public speaking and career readiness. Placement after WSRN, we have alumni that are currently working in the field, and of the 2 students that are currently working, one of them is going to be starting a job at Seattle Sports on March 23rd. So it's already has a job in the field, and the other one is in the interview process for an opportunity in Montana at calling sports. So the 2 students that are currently doing it are in line to actually do this as a professional career. It's really cool. In the upcoming year, we're going to have brand new staff. We need to hire new staff. We need to train them. We got to provide ongoing feedback and training, including air checks. And then growth opportunities. As funding allows, we would love to broadcast more away games. In the past, in past models of WSRN, they were on the team bus and they were calling games on the road. But right now, our model is just to do home games. And we would love to consider additional sports to cover. We are asking for $7,200 for this goes right to student salaries. And that is my time.
I open the floor for any questions.
I think that's a very cool, I think I can say that, right? It's a very cool thing like that. Students can get, right. Well, I think that's awesome that students can get jobs like in actual on the job training, get really cool big jobs. So what does the dream Okay, so 2 student staff, that's like the bare minimum needed to run. What does a perfect, completely perfect running
Yeah,
program
I
look
would
like?
love to do pre-game for more things. I would love to get involved with more clubs, like be able to have more people do it. Do you have?
I'd love to have an engineer there just to run the sound and the tech and stuff. So that way the people that are there, the talent, they can just focus on that.
Yeah, right now they're doing both.
Okay.
And so like one example I referenced to like last night, like they were trying to run the game, trying to get the tech up and running. And yeah, I mean, people get jobs from this, so it's really cool. Yeah.
So like kind of so it'd be like right now it's 2, but like in a dream world would be how many students you would say or people?
I think it depends on the sport. Like I think for football, we would want like a pre, half, post, probably like 4-person crew because we also like during a football game we're so WSRN pays for the student broadcasters, but then we're actually hired by athletics to play music in the booth. So like we already have like 6 people up there on game day, like up like that are involved on all the football games. But I think I would say probably at least 4, like for WSRN would be the dream. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have no questions, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, everybody.
We will be taking a quick, I'll say a 5-minute break for now. So we will reconvene at 4:17.
I'll first sign it.
Eddie. What? Oh.
We will be coming back in around 1 minute. Alrighty. I call this meeting back from recess at 4:17. Alrighty, next up on our new business of the base funding request, we have our request from Monastash.
Okay. In order for a ticket to record. Okay. It's okay. I'll do it now. But you can hold this up. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to evaluate our request. My name is Dr. Candace Walsh. I'm the faculty advisor, and this is Jordan Cagle, grad student and managing editor of Monastash. He's got last year's issue in his hands. A little bit about history. What is Monastash? It's a creative writing journal publishing all students of the university, regardless of their whether they're undergrad, grad, whatever their major. We like to bring in people from all over the disciplines. And it came together in 1990 when professor and poet Joseph Powell and grad student Shannon Hopkins launched the first issues. So 36 years have gone by with Monastash here at CWU. It's the oldest CWU student journal, continuous, and it exemplifies the vision, Central Washington's vision of being a model learning community of access and opportunity. It has provided all CWU students with access and opportunity to become published writers before graduation. So I've told you a little bit about it. It welcomes work from all CWU students. Students are the contributors, the editors, the graphic designers, the promoters. It's a high-impact professionalization superstar. It's a practicum situation where they're doing what they would do in the real world, and they have something to show for it when they're on the job market. We complete and celebrate. So it's published every spring, and there's a launch party and reading during Source, and oftentimes this is the first time that students have read their work in front of an audience. And this is something where students from, wherever they are, if they're online students, they are participating because it's a hybrid event, as well as in person. And its faculty advisors are experts in the publishing field, so we're able to, explain to students how these things work, what the norms are, what they might be expected to know. So one of our students who was published in Monastash shared that having her poems in Monastash, she said, was an incredible validation, which provided me with a deep sense of belonging. And it contributed to the building of my confidence in my journey as a writer and poet. We have a big spike in having more submissions this year, 223. Without, sometimes people think that poetry is just old-fashioned and no one does it anymore, but actually we got 164 poems in to consider. As well as it's also here for visual artists, and we are very proud of the visual presentation and how we're combining visual art and writing. So what's the importance of first publications? Why does it matter? Think about whenever you have a goal but you're not sure how to get there. Okay, the unknown is scary. It's even kind of scary to ask or find out. You don't want to seem like you don't know. It can be demoralizing, and this can keep talented writers dormant for decades. But Monastash makes publication both approachable as well as aspirational. So student writers' dreams, which are what, all these undergraduates and grad students are walking around with these dreams about what they want their lives to be, and there's so much potential. This way they can move a bit from the theoretical to the concrete. It's validating and confidence building. It's a strong portfolio element on the job market. And writers get to know the process, and with knowing comes empowerment. So I've made this cute heart to show that Monastash and CW's mission are intimately connected, because the mission includes offering high impact practices, sustainability, and authentic community partnerships. And that these are grounded in meaningful relationships. Jordan, who was a contributor last year before joining us as managing editor, would you like to read it?
Having my work published in Monastash helped me to feel less isolated by introducing me to the vibrant arts community at CWU. I had an invaluable opportunity to work with an editor one-on-one to fine-tune my story after acceptance.
So Jordan's just a really great example here of not just feeling less isolated and working one-on-one, but moving from somebody who is submitting to somebody who has taken on a leadership role because he was inspired by the process. So, connecting it back to the mission, it's a high-impact practice. The impact is him moving from submitter to editor. And the partnerships that are occurring are grounded in meaningful relationships of editor to writer, and so on. Yes.
And then I've been applying to PhD programs, and I just got accepted to some, and every professor that I talked to was interested in my time at Monastash and the work that I had published there. So it's been a great resume builder as well.
Yeah, that's great to connect back. Thank you. And by the way, that's a very competitive thing, getting into these programs, and you've got more than one, two right now, right? So he's in a choosing position. He's in a powerful position. So what do we want to do? We want to publish more issues. Last year, we were only able to publish 100. And this is something that we want to be able to share with students, give the contributors more copies to brag about with their parents, with future potential bosses and other peers and community members, and to inspire. We want to increase our online publishing presence because that is part of just being contemporary. We want to connect with the wider community. And I also really see the potential and the benefit of being able to have some money to offset the costs of bringing students to conferences where they can reach out and connect with other student magazine submitters and publishers and editors, as well as outside of students, just career situations with people who are hiring. So I got lucky and I bumped into Joe Powell, who founded this magazine. He's a retired professor, distinguished professor emeritus, and he was able to bring a historical context to this, which is that the S&A funds have supported the publication of Monastash since 1998. And he said it demonstrates that our students can write publishable work. It's a good recruiting tool, of course, and a collaborative enterprise. And I love this, very, very analog. After we got the S&A funds, we didn't have to Xerox and staple the journal together any longer. And please don't bring us back to that state. It was, it's a pittance compared to some of the other really, extremely worthwhile places. But realize how far your dollar is going to go with us. It's an essential element of our mission and a liberal arts education in general. So I just, wanted to get ahead of the concept. Is this a class? Is this like supporting a class? No. So there was a misperception that we were a class, and that the journal is a class, and it does not affect the rest of the university. It belongs to the university with submissions alone. This is 10 times the number of student editors. The S&A does not fund the class. It funds printing, a magazine that publishes university community members and is distributed to same. There are no course fees for Monastash classes. Tuition only pays the instructor, and Monastash, like the Pulse and the Observer, makes our university more competitive and compelling to college applicants. It's a platform for student voices. And I just want to leave you with these words. Another student, Victor Volkov, who's graduating this year, said that I received greater exposure on social media platforms like Instagram and Facebook because of Monastash's social presence and distribution. It enabled me as a student, author, editor, creator to share my publishing credentials with the wider literary journal community, which speaks back to your experience. Students like myself have a place to learn how to format and submit their works based on publisher guidelines and receive feedback. This is a valuable hands-on experience for emerging authors. I mean, I know just recently a friend of mine was trying to help another friend submit to literary journals. And she said, oh, what is this? It's asking for a cover letter. Why should I have to write a cover letter to submit a piece to a literary journal? And I was like, yeah, so it actually isn't a cover letter. It's just like, dear editors, this is my piece. It's X amount of words. Here's my bio. Thank you for your consideration. Boom, you're out. So you can see there's a big gap, even with somebody who, has been around the block, and she still just didn't realize that. But all of our students who submit to Monastash do get that grounding in what the norms are and how approachable they are. Any questions?
What? I have one.
Oh, wait, I think.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah. Please, the chair.
Yeah, I'm Chris Shedler, chair of the English department. About it as a recruitment tool, I actually take copies of that to every orientation, Wildcat, preview day, and hand out dozens of them to prospective students. And their faces just light up like, I could be part of this publication. It's something they can take away with them. It's not like an online journal, right? You can't pass out an online journal. This is something that they can see themselves in, see that they could have a place here at CWU. It contributes to that sense of belonging that they have, and just that dream that Candace was talking about to be a published author, I think is really amazing.
I have two questions. The first one is you kind of already answered it, but what else are you doing to promote this book or advertise to students to know that this is an option for them in the first place?
Yeah, thank you so much. So we do have a website, but Jordan, part of his managing editor duties was visiting classes. We send out emails over the year. We have a theme every year, which is inspiring, and this year our upcoming issue is about rebirth. So it kind of helps people to jog their creative process. And given how many submissions we did receive, I think that it's just doing really well. I would love to add more, have a budget for flyers too. I think that would be really great.
Awesome, thank you. And then also, do you have a criteria for people that submit their work, and how do you choose what gets into the book or not?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So there's kind of practical criteria, for prose pieces, no longer than 2,000 words, because we have to make decisions about placement and cost of printing. We have an editorial team, and they all we've got a creative nonfiction team, a fiction team, and a poetry team, and so they each individually read all the poems and then rank them, and then they meet and see how those are coming together. What are the ones that are standing out? Which ones are consistently at the top of the list? So it's not just one subjective decision. And before that, they're learning. They're doing a lot of reading and education about what makes poetry good. What are contemporary poets doing? They have to they have to ground their answers, their choices in something beyond just a gut feeling. And then every single person whose work is engaged with is treated with deep compassion. So with no nastygram, declines. I want to make sure that people come out of the Monastash experience feeling encouraged to continue.
That's awesome, thank you. And then also just to clarify, this request is just for printing costs?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
How many copies do you print every year, and how are those distributed?
Sure. So I'm new here. I can tell you about how many copies are printed every year, but I might ask for Chris's help on the distribution. So 2 years ago, we printed 200 copies, and it was about $2,000. And then last year, it was a bigger book because it was the 35th anniversary. So it was much bigger, and it was 100 copies for the same amount, $2,000. And Chris, I'll pass this over to you. I would like, obviously, more copies.
Yeah, so the distribution, we give copies to each of the authors who are published in the book. We also offer it through the bookstore for a nominal fee. It's actually just basically the cost for the bookstore to send it out. A lot of families will like to order it that way. And then we give out copies at the source reading that we have so that people can get copies there. And then, like I said, we distribute it through orientations and preview days for recruitment purposes as well.
Another question, is the existence of this reliant on printing, or because I think that during the last cycle, the committee had decided that they wouldn't pay for the printing because they would become potentially an online publication. So does it require printing, or could it exist in an online capacity?
Like Chris said, there's nothing more powerful than being able to hold an object in your hands, especially when it comes to recruitment, and if you are in a situation where you're showing something in a job interview. Like Chris said, being able to put it in their hands, their eyes light up, they think, I can be in here. I wasn't privy to last year, but we do have, what I would like to do is increase the sort of sophistication of our online presence. We do have sort of like a PDF type style version of the journal online, which I think, it needs to be available that way, especially with like a link to an employer situation. But, as someone who's been involved with literary journals for 30 years, I've seen, when it was all print. I've seen when it was Xerox. I've seen the internet bubble come and go, and what is, everyone has preferences about, there's always going to be a value of having a print journal as an artifact for archives, as something that you pick up. I mean, I still pick up my journals from when I was in college, look at my kind of bad poetry at that time, but it brings back this rush of connection to my alma mater. And I think that's something that we really need to think about. I think that given what it offers, it's a really good deal to have something that you can hold in your hands and share with people, especially if they are, grandparents who are looking to make a donation, right? They're probably not going to go look at a website the way that you and I might do that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I just want to clarify something. So you guys are asking for the $5,000, and that is going just to print copies. So if I did my mental math right, last year you printed 200, 5,000, that's $25 a copy.
So the price per unit changed because of the two things. One, the length. Secondly, because we only had, the fewer you order, the more expensive per unit.
Right.
So 200 copies for a shorter issue 2 years ago was something like $16 per unit.
Okay.
And I just spoke with Abbott Printing on the phone today, and this is something that has been my experience in my previous institution, is that it gets a lot cheaper per unit. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to, I can actually provide you with those numbers because I'm in the process of getting quotes.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I guess my point of clarification was just that it's not going to support hosting events, it's not going to support paying students for their work.
Right.
It's just going to print.
So I want to clarify, yeah. So we have a cost for the source party of probably refreshments, right? Yeah. And I would absolutely love to pay students for their work. I think that would be amazing. I haven't thought, I wasn't like aware that that was a possibility, but I would be certainly delighted to find a way to do so. Also, I do want, like I said, to promote it with posters. And so when I get the numbers on how much it would cost per unit for a larger order, then I can sort of, I can have more, what's the word, optimism about paying for other things too. Yeah. Sort of like the most important thing is to get it printed. And then once we go from there, we can, add, because then it exists.
Just as one last point of clarification, the 5,000 cost would go into printing how many books exactly?
Like I said, I'm in the process of getting a quote because it's not per unit, the more you order,
Yeah.
the more it goes down. So I can provide that to you within the next, probably by Monday.
Yeah, if you could send us
Yeah.
a follow-up, we'd
I would do that,
get
yeah.
that over. Awesome. Well, if there are no further questions, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jordan. You get to hear me again. I feel like I should change my outfit. Next time.
We will be moving on to our next base funding request, which is Lions Rock.
Thank you so much. So I just want to introduce my interns at Lion Rock this year, the wonderful Nicole Martinez and Noah Lux. They're fantastic. And Nicole will be saying something as part of the presentation. But you can both sit down in the meantime if you like. Okay, so we're all like kind of high off the success of our most recent Lion Rock event at the Multicultural Center. Author David Haynes came and did a craft talk at noon and a reading in the evening, and it was super well attended by people from Ellensburg who came in, as well as faculty, staff, and students. So it invites successful, critically acclaimed authors to campus from all over. David came in from St. Louis. And it also invites students into the literary experiences as readers, writers, MCs, audience members, and questioners. Just to share the numbers, we had 78 in-person attendees, 60 plus Zoom audience, and an ongoing growing audience of folks who tune into the recording. 18 books were sold and signed. That might seem kind of like not that impressive, but if you've been to a lot of literary book readings, this is quite impressive. 18 out of 20, the bookstore was so thrilled. But I also want to share a Zoom moment, because we're a hybrid situation. One of my students said, I was able to watch this while bundled up on the porch while the first snowflakes of this late winter fell on my house. And that really speaks to the connection that we have with online students who oftentimes will tell me that they feel a bit disconnected from campus experiences. Again, I want to clarify that it's a free program produced for and presented to all CWU students. We received 5 years of S&A funding prior to last year. And it's in both modalities, and it goes all through the year, fall, winter, and spring. And so there is a class that reads the work of the people coming in the spring, but that has just a small fraction of the whole audience. And so, there are no course fees, and tuition compensates the instructor. Lion Rock is not dependent on the enrollment or academic credit of those courses for funding or to fulfill program goals. None of the money from S&A goes to the courses. Sometimes you'll have like a university one-on-one class, tell them to go to a football game, disconnected, but enjoyable. So how much involvement is there with students in Lion Rock? So much. So our interns are doing a lot, but so are just folks who come and help to set up the room. Students at the Multicultural Center or the library, when we have events there, they're involved. My interns promoted the events, built a mailing list from scratch, interviewed authors to write a press release that was republished on the front page of the Daily Record and other community publications. NOAA MCs. They helped set up the space read creative work alongside. Students get to see a student reading alongside a famous author. Asked questions during the Q&A, and talked one-on-one with David during the book signing. There was a line that was from this table to the end of that table of community members, including students, and with each one, David was like talking to them about their writing goals, and it was just really beautiful to overhear. We've got upcoming for spring, we have three writers coming in. We've got poet Elizabeth Bradfield on the top left. We've got Nora Wendell, who's a creative nonfiction writer, and Sonora Jha, who is a novelist. And I just want to share that when we're choosing writers, we're thinking about beyond did someone write a book, okay? We want to connect with people from across the university, students who are thinking about what they want to do, with their careers. So Bradfield is a poet, and she works on ships as a crew member. Wendell is a memoirist and an architectural historian. Jha is a former journalist. She can speak to that profession. She's a novelist and a professor. These are the topics in their work include oceanography, environmentalism, architecture, history, relationships, and disability studies. Lion Rock Visiting Writer Series authors remind students to dream, hope, aspire, become, and always to persevere. A lot of the time they're talking about how to be an artist, how to be a writer, how to cultivate this creative career, as they have to pay the bills in the beginning. And this is something that people can take to heart. But I really like to go back to the students' words. From reading responses from students to Lion Rock events, I noticed that they forge strong connections to CWU, offer increased cultural literacy. A lot of times they say, I've never been to a literary reading. I didn't know what it would be like. I felt intimidated, but I went, and now I want to go to more of them. This is something where a door that's closed in like a sophisticated, parts of like culture is suddenly wide open. I belong here. It instills more confidence with self-expression, fosters a clearer sense of career goals, increases emotional regulation and self-acceptance based on what they're witnessing, and provides a deeper understanding of creative writing methods, which can seem really, really mysterious if all you know about is Oprah's book club from your mom. So listening to Mr. Haynes speak was phenomenal. This is a student. I had the pleasure of being able to meet and speak with him. Everything I want to do with my voice, he showed me it's possible. He spoke about the erasure of black folks from literature and how he uses literature to call out the erasure. It felt like everything he was saying was speaking truth to power. All of this reminded me how powerful poetry of witness and protest are. Each love story, each sonnet, and each sentence fights the good fight alongside us. I'm so thankful I got to witness him talk and see a little bit of myself in his words and kindness. Seeing a little bit of oneself in an incredibly successful person who's doing what you want to do is life-changing. Other student responses speak to, I've never been to one before, going from I've never been to one before to, 3 minutes, thank you. It showed how writing can be transcendent. Self-acceptance, the embarrassing mistakes I've made, weird quirks I have, are opportunities for people to relate. Gives me the opportunity to build connections with others who love the same things, poetry and storytelling, identifying friends you haven't met yet, and building connections with the author. And then I left with a deeper appreciation for revision as revelation, this iteration, this perseverance that comes with knowing what goes into creating a work of art. And even that non-English majors are gaining the ability to understand and appreciate writing. Sometimes, and then you get to these writers are also really bringing philosophy to the students in ways that feel very approachable. Sometimes trying to take control of every aspect of life can be detrimental, but when we allow things to happen naturally, that's where so much life comes about. So I'm going to turn it over to Nicole to read what she wants to share.
Okay, this is just kind of paraphrasing what she said, but as a student, I wanted to, say these words. In any university, but I hope especially this one, growth is a priority for our students and what we want them to leave with. a growth in both knowledge and experience, but also in empathy. And so these events at Lion Rock invite this growth in students and also community members alike, as they can connect with and listen to the visiting authors, not just about the craft and their recent works, like Dr. Walsh said, but also in how they've developed their careers and their personal lives, and in what ways they've balanced the professional and their personal lives. And simply in learning from many diverse voices from these authors, we move from ignorance to empathy and community. And also for other community members, like teachers that came to our events, it's a way for them to professionally develop further, even if they're already in their, profession.
And I'm talking about CWU as a place, for their students is great for outreach as well. So, okay, so we're asking for $10,000 a year. It offers, we can offer fair compensation for writers who have much more competitive numbers on the table. A lot of times people have a speaker's fee of $30,000, which I just think is ridiculous as a writer. At some point, hopefully I'll earn that. Maybe I'll have to change my tune. But, we are able to bring in, 5 to 6 writers who are flying from far. Elizabeth is coming from Martha's Vineyard. We also mix that in with wonderful local regional places like, Sonora Jaw coming from Seattle. So we do a kind of an algebra to expose our students to the best possible range. Thank you.
All right, I open up the floor for any questions.
What other funding sources are used to support the writers that come for this?
Thank you so much for asking that, because we're so grateful for the support of, I was able to get wonderful support from student engagement and success contributed to David Haynes' visit. And the president's office also contributed to David Haynes' visit. As someone who's more far away, we needed to have that extra. Starting from zero would be impossible, but having something to add means that we can compensate him fairly, and he's not just saying no because it's not making sense. But we also are always looking for collaborations and partnerships across different departments. But we need something that we can, have it, that we know it's there, because it's always like maybe yes for this event, but no for that event, which happens frequently. We need to have a base of support, and then we can grow from there.
Alrighty, a few questions. So, with areas under S&A being a wide breadth of who we are funding and the structural integrity and the foundations of those areas, how can you justify this being funded in full? And if it is not funded in full, well, how would that impact your ability for this to continue running?
Sure. So I offer a low offer of $1,500 for people who are coming from, farther than the Pacific Northwest driving distance, and then I build that. I build to that by asking from it from other places. So can you just repeat the question?
With many areas being under the S&A umbrella,
right,
and a lot of those areas being very infrastructural, foundational to the university itself, how can you justify this of Lion Rock being funded in full?
So saying that because it's maybe seems like it's not as necessary as another, is that what you're saying by foundational?
More so, how can this be justified with student funds and the student
So
S&A
yeah,
fee?
so just going back to listening to what I'm sure you heard what Nicole said, having students go to an event that changes their ideas about who they can be, how acceptable they are, what they have the nerve to like think about as goals, to be able to like think about new ways of being creative, new ways of connecting with their fellow students. I think is like at the heart of being a college student. Yes.
Yeah. So what are like other avenues, maybe between like the community, outside the community, like for fundraising and like raising other funds that potentially you all have looked at?
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm I'm reaching out to other departments at the university, and as somebody who just got here last fall, I'm looking forward to learning more about what's possible with regional grants. That's something that I'm not going to be able to be, it's not going to be a flow for a while, but I'll be attending the grant workshop that the university is putting on, because that's something that I did at my last university, which is just kind of looking at the Ohio Arts Council was able to give us some funding for a reading series, and so I'm always looking to diversify.
Now, obviously, with the state of the university, this is a tough budget year. We do still have to make some cuts within all base funding areas and have to be looked at. What happens if, hypothetically, you do get half of what you have requested? How would you continue to function?
Sure. Oh, yeah. So that's great. So we would move a little bit more toward leaning on Zoom visits, which can be less money because they don't involve the travel. It'd be a mix, a smaller, more people from who are, really wonderful people from the area, Seattle, Portland, writers based there. They're going to have like a lower price. We understand that you have to make hard decisions about like what you can offer, thinking about all the different organizations. So I want you to feel confident that if we don't get our full ask, we will still function. It will not be as extensive, and we'll have to make some choices, but you should not think that it's an all or nothing situation.
What I realized, and this is my mistake, but I would like to ask for follow-up. I realized that we didn't get any data from you all about Lions Rock. What events were held, how many students, general public members, and things. Is that something I could follow up when you could provide to the committee as we're making our decisions? Great, thank you.
For the record, that will be a follow-up of both Monastash and Lions Rock.
Monastash is included. That's
Okay.
why they have listed their events and their attendance, but for
Gotcha.
some reason I missed their
Okay, so.
Yeah. I will say that before COVID, 150 people would come to events, and there's been a shift in the way that people like operate around going out and being in public together, and like you know how it is, right? It's like a social science thing. However, I'm just thrilled at the turnout that was at David's event. Over 20 people at the craft talk, over 70 people at the reading, and I think that's a really important bellwether because the room was packed. It's a great new space. Like I said, there was so much engagement, and that's something that I know I can build on, based on my track record at my previous institution. Is that when you get that word of mouth, when you're like doing the class visits and the outreach, and people remember the really great time they had, or someone else told them, "Hey, this was awesome," that's something that I know that I can build on.
Have you potentially talked to other campus, like just throwing out names like Slice, ASU? Have you talked to like other student-centered campus departments that could probably increase attendance and whatnot as well?
Yeah, we have been reaching out to the Multicultural Center, shared it with their audience. We had our mailing list involved student organizations, departments. We reached out to all the high school teachers within an hour drive, and also the community colleges too. So we actually we had the Creative Writing Club at Ellensburg High School was interested in coming. Then they couldn't make the logistics work, but they did. Some of them did tune in on Zoom. So I mean, again, this is like get the mailing list together, get a bite from a teacher, follow up. This is all just kind of like a grassroots thing right now. But we are like all about reaching out to people. Sometimes my mailing list will be like, oh, I met that librarian once, and I'll put her on. Oh, there she came. It was so great. It's just like just not being afraid to like just give people opportunities. Did you want to say something, Chris?
So I don't know how much this new group heard about last year and the defunding that happened. The defunding was all in the arts and humanities areas, and I know that wasn't necessarily the intention, but that's what happened. The arts and humanities provide the way that students can express themselves, freedom of speech, their creative expression, their voice, their participation and belonging through the arts and humanities. I know it doesn't feel like that is like foundational to the university, but it is a really important part of the way that students express themselves here at the university. And I would also like to say that in this age of AI and the way that writing is becoming very much machine generated, like the skills of creativity and expression and voice are so important in terms of student development and their professionalization, and making sure that there are humans involved, in the work that they're going to be doing. So I just wanted to put in a plug for making sure that the arts and humanities are still seen as foundational to this institution, for sure.
I would say, as the chair of the current S&A committee, two things. One, I will acknowledge the very rough calls that had to be made last year. I would also like to just point out that this committee and that committee are having to make very different budgeting calls. However, the main focus that I have with this committee, especially as the one chairing it and the one running it, is that we are looking towards the future. And that with this committee, we will be obviously referencing the past in order to look at the decisions that have been made, but ultimately, the decisions that will be made here by this committee are not going to be the same. One way or another, they cannot be the exact same, just statistically. So, well, I do appreciate the comment, but I look at my predecessors and I cringe at the task that was before them. And so but thank you very much. If there are no further comments.
I would just add a point of clarification that it wasn't only this college that was defunded. There was a lot of reductions across all of the areas. And so in the academic side, typically the College of Arts and Humanities has the most funding or the most areas funded because those are like the activity types of courses, but there were a lot of other areas that were impacted as well.
Like I said, a lot of very tough calls had to be made last year just due to the budget situation, but luckily we are in a better state now. Not a great state, admittedly, but better. But if there are no further questions, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
We are going to be taking another 5-minute break before we go into our deliberations for the remaining hour. And we will reconvene at 5:05. Alrighty. We will be returning in about, technically 2 minutes ago.
2 minutes ago.
Alrighty. So, going back, oh, 1 second.
What I thought I would do to maybe help some of this is I've got
Robbie, can you do me a favor? I believe we are back in session now. So, I call this back at 5:08. Alrighty. Could you go in particular to the Pulse and Observer budget breakdowns that they had for their supplemental?
yes, but you have to go in order based on how they present it. So you have
Understood.
to start with Club Travel.
Okay. Well, I opened
I
the.
want to be equitable to the teams that presented
No
first,
worries.
because we did ask them to push their request from last week.
Gotcha.
into this week.
Alrighty. So, first on our old business items, we will be discussing club travels and slices reallocation request of $24,000, reduced to $15,500. I open the floor for any discussion.
So this was their presentation.
Can we get clarification on how much exactly we have in supplemental?
We have
You guys are speaking and you're representing the students.
So, if all is okay, looking at the request of the 15,500, and taking in regards of the upcoming requests of last week and last week, in order to be mindful of our budget and our remaining budget of the 41,404, based on what I am seeing here, I think I'm looking far into the deliberations here, but I believe it would be equitable for, as a personal recommendation from the chair, of capping all of these supplemental requests at a $10,000 limit. It is unlikely that we will be reaching that limit for every single one, especially because most of them don't even hit that limit. However, for those who have gone over the 10,000, I would recommend personally stopping it at 10,000 flat in order to preserve at least that extra $1,000 or so. That's my personal recommendation.
Turn this on. One of the interesting things to kind of note about the club travel budget, also, is it's kind of like a double reimbursement almost. Like the clubs come and ask for the money, and please correct me if I'm wrong or fire me. But the clubs come and ask for the money, they're awarded that, and then sometimes the clubs are reimbursed, or there's a process there that Slice would go through, and then that expense would be reimbursed by the supplemental budget. So it might be, even if you all did cap it at like 10,000 on this, plus they might come in and you might let them have that other reallocation, then there's nothing that's stopping them from saying like, okay, now we have awarded all this money, now we're going to come back and ask again. But this might just kind of make sure that that money is going to actually be spent.
And then I wanted to ask, do we have any more supplemental requests in the next few meeting?
We do not have one for next week as of now.
Okay.
Somebody emailed me today.
So I like to kind of point out, so if we put a blanket cap, right, a binding like price floor at 10K, right, or ceiling, binding price ceiling, does that mean that potentially people can try to push to that ceiling at all times they could? So I'm not saying, I don't know if that's kind of, like, I like the idea of putting a ceiling and a floor, you know?
Personally, especially, with the amount of supplemental requests that we are getting, and we're almost in our last quarter now. We don't know what the supplemental requests are going to look like for spring. However, it is unlikely that we are going to have enough money to fulfill all of them. Frankly, the amount of money that we have right now in our supplemental pot by the end of winter is commendable. I'm very proud of the committee for the $40,000 that we have managed to keep within the pot while still, I believe, satisfactory doling it out to those who needed it. However, as we're reaching the end, we need to be very mindful about the amount of money that we are giving out, because the last thing that we want to do is be out of money by the first supplemental request of spring. With the $10,000 cap as a general suggestion for those who go above it for supplementals, this can be something that can be further deliberated on once we reach other supplemental requests that maybe breach that cap significantly and have maybe a more immediate emergency need. However, for this round of deliberations in particular, I would recommend putting a $10,000 cap.
I like that statement, and I don't know if this is popular or not, but I also kind of think it would help save money if we just round out numbers. Personally, I think if it's 5,556, 5,000. If it's, you get the etc., right? I think that'd be another great point moving forward when it comes to rounding out numbers and saving costs.
Can I point out something, Aaron? Because I know you're going to go the same way.
I would say for the rounding off and things, then just to try to be intentional about kind of, what they're asking, what you're funding. Because what can happen is then the next round of supplemental requests is going to be, I want $6,001. And you know what I mean? So you just kind of have to maybe kind of look at these and try and maybe look at them individually, and you can fund whatever you choose. Like if you all decide I want to fund I don't want to look at that, like let's say 3,500 for the new cars, then that's what you guys can vote to do.
So then maybe not stating that we're capping.
Yeah.
Or doing that.
Partially funding at this point. I would, yeah. I would say that is a good alternative to putting just that hard self-limitation on ourselves, because there could be a funding request that comes in that is $15,000 and it needs it, and it's not equitable. Like Robbie said, it's not equitable. $200,000.
I personally do think that with this specific request, because we're still waiting on their reallocation, I think keeping it at $10,000 at the moment is still good, because that would just be like not, I want to say just, but that's a $5,500 decrease. That could, in their request, including the supplemental. But I think for just now, it'd be 10,000 would be the best way to go.
Are there any motions on the floor?
So I motion to partially fund up to 10K for the club's travel ask.
Any seconds?
A second.
Any for discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. All right, moving on to our second deliberation item, the hype/publicity deliberation voting for $5,991.30. I open the floor for discussion.
Since this one's under, how does that change like how we see this funding? Because we're going to get fundings that are under 6K, 7K, right? So when it comes to smaller asks, like how does the board feel when it comes to like completing the exact number or potentially rounding things up or down, I mean?
When you mean when you mean rounding, do you mean like since it's 991, it's 992?
No,
No, I mean, for example, let's say we looked at that right now and we're like, oh, we're gonna take away 300 away from goods and services, just for example. I'm just trying to see what the board thinks about smaller. How does or genuine ideas in terms of smaller pots or fun smaller asks?
Just as a reminder to the committee, we cannot force them to redistribute any specific areas. Once they get the flat full fee, then they can distribute it as they wish.
And kind of to Alex's point is that although that's true, they still are only going to be reimbursed for what the funding request was for. So if you all approved height printing for spring quarter and they wanted to use it for student wages, then we would not process that.
I'm doing math real quick. I will say, in my position, I'm wary of decreasing the supplemental requests for the Pulse and the Observer, just because. Oh, sorry. Oh, hype. I meant that. Um, just because it's a relatively low number, and then also, I feel like with their presentation, they stated that they made a lot of cuts already to make sure that their request was as small as they can make it.
I would also just like to give the personal reminder that this will be money that is going into their reimbursed from their direct pre-existing departmental funding. Hype in particular, while they have made a very genuine and significant cuts, if this was partially funded, I do believe, depending on the amount of partial funding that could be made, there could be ways to supplement that within their own budget. For reference, the two printing costs of 2,920 and 65 cents multiplied by two comes out to 5,841 and 30 cents. As a personal opinion from the chair, looking at hype and looking at the general amount of importance that goes into the hype booklet, but also the fairly, they have ways of making other revenue. They have ways of filling in the gaps that other departments simply do not. In my personal opinion, I believe this could be partially funded with somewhere within the 300, 500 range, potentially even going up to 1,000 if the committee could see that being equitable. However, realistically, I could see them potentially being able to cover $300 to $500 with some maneuvering. But of course, they are not here to answer. So this is pure speculation. I want that, once again, a personal opinion of the chair.
Did we have somewhere where it said how, like, where they get their other revenue? Can't really remember off the top of my head right now.
It is pure speculation. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely not. I would, if they were here in the room, I absolutely would have asked them. However, for a variety of reasons, people don't want to be here at this time, which is understandable. But
I do agree with that statement. I actually think that there could be this thing where we try something like that, and then we partially fund and see if comparing it to the and see how their stats do for in the spring, and that could be kind of a ongoing thing that we could see if that works.
technically, we don't really have any power over hype to have them come back to us on supplemental in particular, especially because they already had their base funding presentation. So I would say, depending on the decision of the committee and the amount of funds given through supplemental, we could potentially reach out to them uh, afterwards. However, like I said, due to the deliberation having to be done today, simply because of we can't push it back another week, it is. I'm unsure of how likely they would be able to do that because I'm just not sure.
And I'd like to just add one more thing. If, let's say there is a bunch of extra funding in their budget at the end of the year that, and sort of kind of to your point that maybe they didn't need every penny of it because of how the rest of the year goes, then that extra money will roll back to the committee next year for supplemental.
I guess my question to the rest of the committee is this something that seems to be worthwhile for supplemental funds?
I say yes.
Oh yeah.
I agree.
Then I would like the committee to make their decision based off of that and what is being shown in front of us.
I like to appro- motion to fully fund the 5,991.30 for hype and publicity.
Any seconds?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Alrighty, now that we are done with the first half of the deliberations, we'll be moving on to last week's old business. Alrighty. Mhm. We will be moving on. Yes. We will be moving on now to the old deliberation of Pulse magazine for $8,391.13. I open the floor for discussion.
I can assure the committee that I'm definitely trying to, like, I'm calculating, I'm thinking critically about the funding and things like that. With the Pulse and student media in particular, with their requests, or especially this request, I do not see an issue with fully funding it. Unless an issue is raised, and I'll consider it. That's just my stance.
I also don't see a fully issue. I also don't see an issue fully funding it either. I'm just trying to make some more calculations.
For reference, if this is fully funded with the current amount left in the S&A pot, we would be left with $16,722.31. That is $16,722.31. As a point of clarification for when they presented last week, one of the questions that I asked that was answered was, what is the priority of funding for these supplemental requests? For Pulse, it was student wages.
I can say that Alex and I are both very big advocates on those. So
I can't limit any student wages. I cannot limit funding on student wages.
I agree.
I motion to approve the Pulse ask for the totality of $8,391.13.
Any seconds?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to our last bit of deliberation for the day, we have the Observer newspaper for $11,831.72.
If I remember correctly, this is the one where it's the opposite, where they focus more on funding as opposed to student wages.
Yes, when asked
printing.
When asked the same question, they told me that their priority was printing as opposed to student wages.
So to clarify, it said that if they were to print 8 instead of 5, they believe that they would be able to make more revenue.
Point of clarification, what was the winter cost of printing? For reference, that is, I believe, 4,500.
Is there a way we can see the revenue from fall?
There, the ask for fall.
The revenue generated
I don't know that
compared
I
to those
can provide
numbers.
you that at this moment.
Oof, okay.
Point of clarification, Aaron. Will we be experiencing any more salary savings throughout the year of the 5,000?
Other open positions will sweep back. And then my plan is to, before the next meeting, is to go through and sort of shore up all of the supplemental requests that have been approved, because of course those are reimbursed and not every penny is typically spent. So I'm gonna kind of sweep back anything that's unspent of those supplemental requests. And so yes, we can't know how much.
Is it unlikely? Is it unlikely we're going to see any more of the 5,000 that we've been getting every month? Okay.
That should be through the rest of the year. Through June.
through So over the course of the next 4 months, we should be getting 5,000 every month, potentially, give or take. So this pot, if after this isn't, if it is not touched at all, by the end of June, it'll be 20,000 plus some. However, as you've seen, it is unlikely that we will not get any more supplemental requests, but depending on what we spend here, we will be getting, just as a reminder, this 41,000 initial uh, supplemental pot was including February's and not the upcoming months.
So I like to make a point. So just running some quick math. If 5 issues generates, so an issue is $932, right? So if 5 issues generate 1,000 in revenue, right? And this is 8. This would mean it would make 1,600 in revenue for this ask. So
Is that on top of their, like, that's the 5 copies, and then on top of that, it's the 1,000?
So my math here is because they're asking for 8, right? So that's the total for 8. So 1,000 is for 5, it's a K of revenue, and with the 3, it would be another 600 on top of that. So 1,600 in revenue for this specific ask.
So yeah, this, if we go by just the numbers that have been shared with us, with the $1,000 in revenue of 5, as Gordon said, doing the math, cutting that down and just dividing it, that would come out to around $600 of extra revenue with 3 more flights. For the record, those revenue amounts are for fall quarter, and it is we are unclear on how many issues have been printed since then.
In their presentation, did they clarify what, like, they come up with revenue, what they use the revenue for? Like, does it go back into printing?
I asked a question when they were giving their base funding presentation that they had a certain amount of revenue that they were putting back into their own self-funding. Um, is it okay if we look at their base funding presentation here, or is this purely supplemental? Understood. In that case, there's information outside of the supplemental sphere that we can be aware of. However, just because we know of what they have for the next future, so and so, what they projected, I don't know if that will directly go into the supplemental.
I just wanted to kind of point out the S&A policy as as it relates to revenue that is generated by S&A dollars. So in this case, it's S&A dollars that are sort of providing the publication that they are then selling revenue. So it is that revenue becomes the same as S&A funding. So that will, anything like if they, have a bunch of revenue at the end, any area, then that comes back to the S&A committee. Yeah, yeah.
For reference, the cost of printing, as a rough calculation from the numbers given to us of the observers S&A supplemental presentation, at 5, it would be roughly 4,671 and 20 cents. At 6, it would be 5,605 and 44 cents. And at 7, it would be, one moment. That was 300. That's not right.
Reminder, giving them the money, right? Or you're saying we allocate this amount. Now, they could choose to print eight if you all just fund the 5.
Yes.
But remember, that's reimbursement only. So they'll expend that money first. Aaron will catch that and go, okay, we authorized that we cover that. So again, you can't tell them how they spend it. You can't tell them how many issues to print. You can just say, we're giving you this much money for this, and however they have to spend it within this.
For committee clarity, this would not be anything that would be spent or enforced on how they would spend, but just for committee clarity, this is how much it very rough estimatedly would be if this was the amount that they were printing.
Kind of want to get an idea here. So going back to what Chairman Mathis said, if we were to say we're doing 10K because we're following that, at least that partial funding for this meeting, right? What is the committee's overall consensus on that idea?
I was also considering it of doing that. I'm thinking.
So if we funded 10K, right? What is your overall like ideas on funding only 10K of that ask?
As the chair of the committee, looking at a partial funding of $10,000 based on the printing costs estimated within the committee itself and the general amount of funding that would go into student benefits at the lowest of 5 issues printed, as it was in winter quarter, they would have 4,671 go into printing, and the remaining 5,330 go into student wages, which would cover roughly half of their current student wages. If decided to go for the full 8 issues that is requested for printing here, it would be around the 7,473 for printing and the 2,630 roughly to student wages, which would be a fourth, a little under a fourth. So not our decision to make. It would be purely up to the decision of the observer and those in charge of the funding itself. But for committee idea of what 10,000 could give them, that is a general idea.
I think it falls in line with being fair to ask. Personally, it's up to me. I'm me when it comes to student wages, but this is not what this is about in terms of what the main goal here is. The main goal is printing, but also kind of being budgeting, of course. I'm still in favor of the 10K, so I don't know if that changes anyone's opinions.
What
No.
what I'm thinking in my mind is brain. Looking at thinking about like how much we'll be having for next quarter, how much they're asking for, what we'll be left with. I think it'd be a good idea to fund them as if they were to print the 5 weeks. Now, of course, like we've mentioned, we don't actually, they may still do 8 or whatever, but like,
Puppies.
yeah, yeah. If we like look at how much it would be as if they were to print for 5, and then yeah, I don't have a calculator on me right now, so I'm just struggling with the math.
Um, yeah, this is a difficult one. So if we were to hypothetically allocate them fully, we would have $4,940.59 left in our supplemental. If we just do 10,000, we are increasing that to 6,772.31, which is helpful for the next upcoming hypothetical like supplemental funds. I'm not seeing that as like a big money saving option, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, kind of kind of pointing out what I said previously, and I might be wrong on that, but my idea of what I said with that is that so the thing is, if you follow that, and I might be wrong, so this is my first time on the committee, of course, right? But, huh? Okay. So if we those little chips add up to the big boulder, right? I don't know if it's not even really a principle, just my idea. And I mean, I guess it'd be nice to see data with that, which could be artificially generated, I guess. But I do understand that kind of the bigger picture. Does that really do anything? No. But the thing is, that idea only works. What I was saying is if it goes forward, right? So I don't know, kind of providing my understanding on that or my idea on that.
As a point of clarification and a personal outlook from the chairman, if funded the $10,000, the observer has stated they have $5,235 of self-supporting funds at the top. With that in mind, and assuming that there was a potential of a moderate cut in 6 issues printed, let's say, that would be $10,250, counting the student wages in full. That the self, yes, 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 the self-funding was what I was looking for, and I remembered it was at the top.
I would be on board with either that number or the flat 10,000.
Yeah, I just did the math also, and I got 9,029, and yeah, so looked at how much would be per week, then the well, the other amount that's not printing, added on to that after divided by 5, and that's what I got, and I think that would be the good way to go about it.
I really like that.
Died, so it must have.
And as stated before, with this 9,316 number and the 78 cents, giving the idea of full funding for the student wages and a flight of 5 printed issues. With this in mind, as stated before, how much is $700 going to be worth for the committee as an idea?
Kind of going back to the idea. I mean, in the smaller picture, maybe not, but I like to think that in the bigger picture it will. But that only holds true if you actually tend to look out into the bigger picture. But I really like this. I think it's a fair ask. I think it's a fair ask on all parties because I think it's a complete. I think it's a hard and unreal ask to get every funding funded fully ever. You know, And I think this is a fair ask for in terms of compromises for pretty much everyone in the seating table. Yep, the number of 9,316 and 78 cents.
Just to clarify, that calculation was if they stuck with the 5 copies.
I'm ready to do a motion. Okay. What was that number again? Oh my goodness. Nine, three. Okay, leave it there.
Switch.
So, I motion to partially fund, what was this? The Observer with $9,316.78.
I second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Alrighty, with that, with all this in mind, can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting at second round of public comment? Everybody in the room. Alrighty, can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting at 6 p.m.?
I motion to adjourn this meeting at 6 p.m.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.